Jesus put a smile upon your face, and let the joy of Jesus every little frown erase. Proclaim his grace with a happy face, let his glory shine, and show the joy of Jesus on your face. Okay, very good. Y'all said, yeah. You like a song? Marie, you like a song? It's your first time you heard it, right? Very, very peppy. I like it. I talked to a friend of mine today. He called me today. Tommy Ashworth, he's been here a few times. Lives in Chicago. But he called today. He's on his way back from the cancer center. He's got cancer, but he says he's got the best skin he's had in a long time, and so he's just rejoicing in that. And I thought about that song because I've been thinking about it a lot here lately. I just want to rejoice in what he's given us. Tammy asked this question to me yesterday about are we blessed because we haven't been sick? Or are our friends that have been sick, like Tracy, Marcia, Kevin Bartlett, different ones, does that mean they are not blessed in the same way we are blessed? Tommy was telling me today about a man that we know that worked at the college when we were college students. And he got us all jobs. It was Phil Sally it was his job to find college students jobs. And he's really funny, a great guy to be around. But it was his job to get us jobs while we were in school, and he worked for the college. So, but he died 2 weeks ago from COVID, and so would that mean that he is not as blessed as we are blessed? And so Tammy said, how we answered the question is said, are we blessed or not blessed? How would you respond to that? Would you say you were, well, we'd say physically we feel like we're better off rather than being sick, right? But does that mean somebody is not as blessed? Because Kevin Bartlett, who was in hospital for 5 weeks, does he not feel as blessed to be back home as we do to be here tonight, or do we take it for granted because we haven't gone through that? A lot of times people that don't go through something just kind of take it for granted. People that never been broke, they just take money for granted. They've always had it or whatever. So people that never been sick, sometimes we just take the blessings that we have, we take it for granted, and sometimes the blessing is. What's that song that Peyton used to sing? Sometimes the blessings come through raindrops or something like that. One of those songs that Peyton Moore used to sing. So sometimes we take things for granted. Does that mean we're not as blessed because we haven't gone through it? I have no idea. Okay, I think about people like our parents' generation, World War II, grew up in the Depression or whatever. Some people think it's the worst thing that ever happened to America, and other people think it's the greatest generation because they grew up during the Depression, they fought in the war, they won the war, they came back home and got their jobs and just went on with their life. But a lot of people refer to them as the greatest generation. So which one's more blessed, us or them? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Okay, but it was just the idea. When I put my trust in Jesus, I got his joy. Okay, we should have it where we're good. We're good all the time. Okay. All right. Anybody got a prayer request? Okay. 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 That's the whole size family's on the list. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Prayer request? Anybody with unspoken requests? I got one request that's for Connor. That's for Jackson, whose dad passed away Christmas. John Hall, and for Connor, Tracy, and the whole family, and the loss there. Okay. Charlie, we need some prayer. Open your Bibles, please, to Malachi. Malachi. It's the book right before Matthew. Last book of the Old Testament. Short book, a lot of truth. Malachi chapter 1. I'm going to read through. We'll end up reading through this whole book, or most of this book, different chapters, in the next few weeks. But in reading through this, I thought about different things, and I know we went through a lot of prophecies and stuff in the last 6 months in the Old Testament, but I just want to get through this and look at this different truths. Okay, you got it? Everybody got it? Malachi chapter 1. I'm going to read the first 4 or 5 verses. The burden of the word of the Lord was to Israel by Malachi, and the word Malachi is a messenger. He's just a messenger of God. I have loved you. God's talking to Israel now. God, and you could use a lot of these verses as how God talks to America too. I have loved you, saith the Lord, yet you say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. And they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord be magnified from the border of Israel. We're going to stop reading right there. Okay? I guess when we talk about this, we want to review the story of Jacob and Esau. Who's Jacob and Esau? Who's their fathers? Anybody remember? Isaac, correct. Isaac is his father, Jacob and Esau. How much difference was there in age? Anybody remember? They're twins. Okay? So Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. Jacob and Esau were twin brothers. Okay, so we all know twins, and every family that I know of that has twins, they're not identical. They may look the same, but they are different, right? I mean, think about Travis and Jason are different, or Josh and Chris Middleton are different. The twins that were of course, Jared and Jamie are different. But these boys were different as well. Okay, and in this, he said, God said, "I've loved Jacob." Why would God say, "I love Jacob"? And I hated Esau. Okay? Well, does God hate anybody? Does he love Esau? Does he love Esau? Did he love Esau? He did, didn't he? For God so loved the world, Esau's part of the world, right? But let's review their story just a little bit, okay? Jacob and Esau, twin boys. Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, wanted to be outside all the time. Jacob was inside. Esau was daddy's boy. He was a hunter. He worked outside. Esau was, I hate to say it this way, or we could say it this way, he was more of a mama's boy. Their father said, my son, talked about Esau, and the mother said, Jacob is my son. Okay, and that happens a lot when you have kids, and one kind of leans, is more like dad, may act like dad, and he becomes daddy's boy, or daddy's little girl, whatever, just a daddy girl. John Hall passed away. Is an obituary in the paper that his daughter was a daddy's girl. Okay, but so as they grew up, Jacob was, which the word Jacob means trickster or deceiver. So Jacob, or supplanter, is one exact term for it. So as they were growing up, one day Esau came from the field. Esau was actually the oldest of the twins, and he's a hairy guy, and he's different than his brother. And he came in from the field, and he said he'd been hunting, and he didn't get anything. Everybody knows what that's like, to go hunting and come back and without getting anything. And he said, I'm starved. And Jacob was making something it was red, it had beans in it. Pottage is what they called it, but it was red with beans. My first thought is he's making something like chili in the house. Okay, so as Esau comes in the house, he's been hunting, didn't get anything, he starved to death, and he said, "Let me get a bowl of your chili." And Jacob says, "I'll sell it to you." And Esau said, sell it for what? He said, your birthright. Being the oldest son, Esau's by natural birthright. And Michelle asked me about the birthright of the 12 sons earlier in the week, Sunday. So being the oldest son, he's supposed to get a double portion of the father's inheritance. So if they, with two boys, they're supposed to divide the inheritance in 3 parts, and the oldest son gets 2 parts, and the second son gets 3. Or like with Jacob had 12 sons, they're supposed to divide it up 13 ways, and the oldest son would get 1 extra portion. Okay, that was the birthright that was given him. But it's also meant in their family, the birthright carried with it the seed of Christ. That means somebody's great grandson. We don't know what generation. They didn't know what generation it was going to be because it was a promise made to Abraham. They didn't know what generation it was going to be, but one of their sons is going to be Jesus. Okay, not through the mother, like through Mary, not through Joseph. Okay, we know how it goes. Also, the birthright contained the priestly right of the family. So when the family got together, they offered a sacrifice, just like Adam and Eve were taught to do, and Abel did it correctly, and Cain did not. When the family got together off the sacrifice, part of the birthright was that the priestly right of offering the sacrifice, which to God is important because you're I'm not going to use the word religious part of the birthright, because you have a monetary part of the birthright and the seed of Christ part of the birthright. But this is the part the ceremonial part, where you come in and offer, as your family comes and offers a sacrifice, everyone's looking for this person to be the leader. Okay? Esau didn't care. Okay? If someone birthright, he said, what good's it do if I starve? Okay? He didn't want to starve because he's missing a meal. Missed one meal, coming from hunting, he's hungry. Okay? And he said, what gives it do if what gives the birthright if I starve? That's what we get. So he didn't care about the money. He didn't care about the priestly right. He didn't care about being the heir of Christ. Okay? So he traded his birthright for a bowl of chili. Okay? So that's who Jacob and Esau are. And looking at that, God said, I love Jacob, hated Esau. Okay? Does that mean God hated Esau? No, because if you look over, I'm going to turn over to Luke chapter 14. Jesus made this statement. Luke chapter 14, verse 26. If you got your Bibles, you can turn to this and we'll read this, okay? Because this love is a comparison thing. Just like any emotion, it's a rationalization or a comparison of the one to the other. Luke chapter 14, verse 25 says this, and there went great multitudes with him, with Jesus, and he turned and said unto them, if any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Does that mean you're supposed to hate these people? No, but Jesus said in comparison of your love towards me, you're not supposed to love them more than you love me. You're not supposed to put them in a higher priority than you place me. Okay? And well, John, does that make somebody a fanatic? The word fanatic is just a longer term, short version is a fan of Jesus. That make him your actually, when you, as a Christian, you make him your Lord, your leader, and you say, I do love him. Okay? And he said, I want your love for me to excel so much that what you have for your immediate family almost looks like hatred. Okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to anybody? That your love for God should be so much that it looks like your love for it would be saying that Jesus saying that your love for God would be so strong that it looks like your love for David is hatred. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that it can be at times hatred, okay? That's where God said, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Why? Because of his choices. Okay? Or if I'm going to pour out my love on Jacob, Esau got a blessing. He got a land. If you're looking at Israel, the property, the land of Israel, from your direction, looking this direction, on this side's the Mediterranean Sea, but down on this side, on the southern east, south, southern western coast is the Philistines, where the Philistines live. on the eastern side of Israel is a mountain range which was given to Edom, okay, to Esau, also called Edom, or Edomites, okay. And so he was given the land, and they were a rustic, robust people, hunters and shepherds, and they were given that land. It was a prosperous land. But throughout the generations, okay, okay. So we looked at the love versus hatred thing. So God says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So Jesus died for Esau and his family as well as he died for Jacob and his family. But in the comparison, God said, loved Esau, okay, in comparison. Because he's talking to the Jews, okay, the descendants. I loved Jacob. He's talking to the Jews and said, you understand how much I loved you, and it didn't mean anything to you, okay? I talked to a guy one time who's was good. He told me he's going through a divorce. He had great love for his. He thought he had great love for his wife. He had no idea how she felt about him. Until he came home one day, she was gone, and he had no idea that his love was not reciprocated in that way. Okay. God's love for Israel is strong, and yet they didn't care anything about what he said or did. So they went about just like the Pharisees. They went about setting up their own religion apart from God. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. We went through the love and hatred thing. Look at verse 4. Okay, so we're saying back in Malachi chapter 1, verse 4. Whereas Edom, that's Esau, it's Edom, his family, they call him Edom, which means red, the Edomites. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished. That means we don't have anything. Okay, but we will return and build the desolate places. Stop reading right where. Look up this way. God had given them a land, given them a prosperous land, rich land. He made promises to Esau, and his descendants are called Edomites. And so he'd given this land. They became very prosperous, but they turned their backs on God and went completely into idolatry. So he's kind of wiped out their prosperity. Okay. Now those people are complaining and saying we're impoverished and we have nothing, but we're going to go back. We're going to go back into our land. We're going to build our land. And God said, I'm going to wipe it out again because your foundation is completely off. Okay, let's read it. Verse 4 again. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished. That means we don't. And a lot of people in that area of the world are still impoverished, right? There's a lot of the Arab nations. I don't want to get in trouble for saying this. I don't know if I want to say it the right way. There is a lot of the Arab nations that have said we don't have anything and it's Israel's fault, right? We've done this for 40 years. They've done, well, actually for thousands of years they've done this, but we haven't been blessed like they've been blessed. But we don't have the good things that they have, right? The land that is now Israel, when Israel went back in there, established the state in 1948, a lot of it was desolate land until Israel went in and did a lot of irrigation with the water systems and built canals and ways to make the land fruitful where it wasn't fruitful before. Okay, the Edomites said, we're going to go back and build our land, and God said, I'm going to wipe you out again. Okay, according to verse 4. And God said, they said, we will build. Middle of verse 4. That's the Edomites said, they shall build. And God says, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness because of who they are. Okay? The people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. And he says, if they won't repent and turn to me, I'm never going to bless their land. Okay? Charlie, in his prayer a few minutes ago, asked for God's blessing on our nation for a revival in our church and every gospel preaching church. That's my same prayer, that God will bless our nation, that the churches will be full again, and that as a nation we will turn back to God. Okay, I think about this is not political, but I think about the Ronald Reagan 40 years ago referring us to the shining city on the hill, and our best days are ahead of us, and looking forward to and anticipating God's blessing, wanting God to bless our nation. And another politician just recently said our darkest days are ahead of us. And I think there's a completely difference in the philosophy of how people look at stuff. Okay, but one is saying we're asking for God's blessing, and others said we don't need God. We're going to do things our way. Okay, Edomites were saying we're going to do things our way, and God says I'm going to wipe you out again. And you can build again if you want to, but I'm going to wipe it down again. Okay, any questions on that? Does God have the right to wipe them out again? Sure does. Okay, I think about Germany and 100. First time was about 105 years ago, where they rebelled against the world, and God tore them down. Then under Hitler, they built up their nation again, and God tore them down again. Using the United States to do it. But okay, any nation that builds themselves up against God, think about Russia or China or some of these communist nations. Their people are impoverished, like the Israelites, like the Edomites would say, we are impoverished. For most part, their people are impoverished. Their government people may not be. The government people may be doing really well, but everybody else is doing poorly. Okay, so it's still the same, I think, for Esau and that part of that region of the world. A lot of people, I think it's the same way for a lot of carnal Christians that say we're going to do things our way, and God says I'm going to wipe you out if you do it. Okay, I'm going to knock your feet out from under you if you want to go your way. And they said, that's okay, we'll rebuild. And God said, I don't want you to rebuild. Remember what was the first city? When Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, they traveled for 40 years in the wilderness. And when Moses passed away, Joshua led them into the promised land. And in the promised land, what was the first city that they came to? You may remember? What's this first? Huh? Jericho is correct. And God said, when they destroyed the city of Jericho, maybe wrong about it. Maybe it was Sodom. But I think it was Jericho when they destroyed the city. They said, don't build the city back. Okay? And I'm pretty sure it was Jericho that when the man who said, I'm going to build the city back, when he started the foundation of the city, he buried his first son. When he finished the foundation of the city, he buried his last son. Okay? And God says, if I tell you not to, don't go ahead and do what you want to do anyway. But a lot of Christians today do exactly what they want to do, and not just the people that are out of church because of COVID. A lot of people just said, "Well, I don't need God's way," and in reality, God says, "Okay, you can build that house, you can build that job, you can build whatever you want to build, but I'm going to wipe it out, okay? And it's going to amount to nothing." And because a lot of Christians today have the same mentality that Esau had, and God says, "I want to give you this." This birthright. It is your birthright as a Christian to take the gospel, carry Christ to other people, and it means nothing to most Christians. I give you a birthright of I'm going to bless your inheritance, and it means nothing because I just want to burn up my inheritance anyway. And a lot of carnal Christians are doing just like the Edomites when God says, well, "I love you, but my love in comparison to that person over there who seeks my will may not look the same as my love towards you." In John chapter 14 and 15, John chapter 14 and John chapter 15, Jesus talks about, that's when Jesus said, he's right before you take him to be crucified. "I go to prepare a place for you, and if I come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am you may be also." He said, if you'll keep my commandments, then I'll be able to, let's turn it, let me word that. Turn to John chapter 14, if you will. Does God love everybody? Yes. Okay. I want to read these verses because God says, "I want to pour out my blessings on you." And a lot of people won't take it, don't want it, like Esau didn't want it. Okay. Look at John chapter 14. I'm going to read verse 15. It says this: "If you love me, keep my commandments." It's pretty simple, isn't it? If you love me, keep my commandments. "And I will pray the Father, who shall give you another comforter, and that he may abide with you forever," because the Holy Spirit dwells with us, the Spirit of truth. And we'll read on down to verse 14, because this is a conditional promise. "He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me." God says, if you love me, you're going to do what I ask you to do. "He that hath my commandments and keepeth them, he it is that loveth me. And he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him." That makes sense where God says, okay, if you keep my commandments, I can show you myself. It's the greatest blessing you ever have. And Judas saith unto him, not Iscariot, Lord, how is it that thou wilt manifest thyself to us, and not unto the world? And Jesus answered and saith unto him, If a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our abode with him. You stop reading right there. Okay? God says, I want to love you like I love Jacob. Okay? I want to pour out my love on you. I want you to have this fellowship. I want you to keep my commandments, be obedient to me. And by you being obedient to me, I will show myself to you. Me and my Father will come make our abode with you and be with you forever. Not just come to visit. Okay? I think about church. Is that the right way? There's a lot of people, a lot of Christians, think that when they come to God's house, to church, okay, they're coming to visit with God for just a few minutes. And then they're going to go back out into the world and be who they want to be and what they're going to be anyway. And they don't come to get something from God or walk away with God and have a personal relationship with Him. But He's saying, I want you to love me. I want you to keep my commandments. And I want to pour out my love on you, to you, like I did to Jacob. Okay? And a lot of Christians, I think, are impoverished. The illustration I've given 100 times about a guy who said the best years of his life, he was in this church for about 2 years and he came faithfully, served in every capacity he could serve. He said the best years of his life was when he was here. And I said, well, once you get back in church, whether it's here or Crossroads or wherever you want to go, Maranatha, just get back in church. He says the best part of his life, like he was walking hand in hand with God, and God poured out His blessings on him, and whether it's family, work, every area of his life. But he chose to go his way instead of God's way. And that's when you come back. Okay? And my question is, won't you come back? Okay? Get back in church. No one's going to say, oh, look what he did. No one cares. Okay? Get back into fellowship, or let God pour out His blessings on you again. Okay? Any questions on that? Let me ask you this. God love you? Charlie? Marlon, does God love you? Marie, does God love you? Do you listen to home? Jim Summers, anybody listen to home? Tracy, does God love you? Do you know? Do you know His love? Brother John, I don't feel His love. I don't either. Okay? Don't have to. I don't go by my emotions. My emotions are not. My emotions don't keep me in check. Okay? I got to keep my emotions in check. Right? I don't go by my emotions. I go by truth and what the truth says. I listened to a message this week while I was driving. I don't even know who the preacher was or where he came from. I just picked it up on the radio when I was traveling across the country somewhere. He's talking about a lot of people a lot of Christians love their emotions, but they don't understand truth. And they go to church and they feel real emotional while they're there, but they don't take anything home with them. They don't pick up this truth and say, wow, I'll take it with me this week and take it home. Okay? Or if they can read their Bible in the morning, they will get that truth. Okay? Okay. Back to Malachi chapter 1. Any questions on this? Comments? Anybody got a comment? Okay. So, Israel's sin was idolatry. We know that. But then they despised God's house, the temple of God, and walk with God. We're back in Malachi chapter 1. We're going to look at verse 6. And God's still doing the talking. Verse 6. Because He dealt with Esau in a couple of verses. Now let's go back to Israel. A son honoreth his father, and a servant his master. If then I be a father, God's doing the talking. If I be a father, where's mine honor? Do you honor me? And if I be a master, where's my fear? Because a lot of people they're supposed to fear their masters. Saith the Lord of hosts unto you, O priests that despise my name. They're talking about the leaders of Israel. Okay? O priests that despise my name, and ye say, wherein have we despised thee? I like how Malachi asks questions and answers them. It goes into tithing a couple chapters over. Wherein have we despised thee? He said, you offer polluted bread upon mine altar, like putting yeast in your bread. For the altar, they weren't allowed to have yeast or fermented wine. They weren't supposed to have fermented wine in their offerings. You offer polluted bread upon mine altar, and you say, wherein have we polluted thee? And that you say, the table of the Lord is contemptible. And if you offer the blind for a sacrifice, Read the verse. And if you offer a blind for a sacrifice, is it not evil? And if you offer a lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it now to thy governor. Will he be pleased with thee, or accept thy person, saith the Lord of hosts? Stop reading right there. Look this way. Here's what Israel did. Here's what they were doing. The ones who were religious at the time, that were still coming in and offering their sacrifices to God. They got 100 sheep, back down, 10%. They got 10 sheep. They're supposed to give one sheep. Which one are they going to give? The best, the fattest one, the healthiest one, or this one is lame, or the blind one? They're going to bring it in, okay? Offer it as a sacrifice to God. A lot of people want to give what God what's left over, okay? I was talking back over in the last chapter of Malachi talks about tithing. I was taught to do this by the time I got saved. That you give God the first 10%, not the last. A lot of people want to give God what's left over. Well, boy, John, I won't give 10%. It doesn't matter. I don't know who gives what. Really don't. But a lot of people want to give God what's left over of their life. I want to fill up my life with what I want to fill up my life with, and then whatever's left over, I'll give it to God. Let's give him the best part. Okay? I told you about talking to Tommy today. My friend, we went to Bible college together. I got saved at Canaan Baptist Church. He's a couple years ahead of me. He got saved a long time before I did, but he's a couple years older than me. And so when I got saved, Tammy and I were 17 when we got saved. Tommy was there. And so we spent a long time today. I was driving, we were talking, and we spent a long time today just rejoicing over the fact that we gave, as far as we know, as best as we could, we gave the best part of our life. Okay? There's other things we could have done with our lives. Was if we'd have gone a different direction when we were younger and not gone to Bible college, not served God, not surrendered to Him, whatever His will is. And it doesn't mean you have to go to, anybody has to go to Bible college. Just the idea of saying, "Here, my Lord, send me," like Isaiah said, or wherever you lead me, I'll go. It's like the song says. Tom and I rejoiced. He's talking about retiring next year. He and I rejoiced in all the chapters of our lives for the last 40 years, because we went back to this saying 40 years ago, surrender to God. Okay? Whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to witness to. A man passed away. Told you about Phil Sally passed away. I think I told you this. Told Tammy this. Phil Sally passed away. He's 80 years old. Charlie just recently, he was out with somebody from his church in Florida. He's out with, they went to witness to somebody. He said, and the other person told the story. There was a huge guy, big bodybuilder guy. And this 80-year-old man went up there and started poking him in the chest. And said, "Son, you need to listen to me." and to his surprise, to the soul-winning partner's surprise, this big, huge bodybuilder guy stopped and listened to the old man. The old man witnessed to him and he got saved. Okay? I don't want to give God a blind calf or a sick lamb. I don't want to give him the leftovers of my life. I want to give him what's best. I think, to me, that's why I want to pray first thing in the morning. A lot of people like to pray at nighttime, whenever you choose, but I want to give them what hours are best. For me, my thinking part's best in the morning. Preacher Dave used to tell me that he liked to read at nighttime because he thought better at nighttime than he did first thing in the morning. Well, maybe I think better first thing in the morning because I hook up the IV of coffee first thing in the morning. I want to give him the best, not what's left over. And Israel said, "This is good enough." Okay? What's that movie? You ever see the movie Courageous, the Christian movie? Charlie, you see that movie, Courageous, with the cops? It's a Christian film. And someone said, one police officer, his daughter died. His daughter dies. You remember seeing the story? Okay. And someone said, one of his buddies said, "You've been a good enough dad." He said, "I don't want to be a good enough dad. I don't want to be the best. I want to be the best that I can be. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing as a dad to be the very best. As a Christian, I don't want to be a good enough Christian. I want to be the best that I can be. I want to." What was it? Charles Spurgeon, I think it was, said when he looked up to God, he said, "I love you, Lord," the verse we read in John chapter 14, when he looked up to God and says, I love you, Lord, he wanted God to look back and say, I know you do. I know you do. I don't want to be just good enough. I want to be the best I can be. Israel said, I will offer a sacrifice. Lamb, sick one, get the sick one, get the one with the broken leg, okay? The lame one. You know, can't get much out of that one at the market. Let's take it and give it away, okay? Give it to God. In this, we'll do what's right because it's right, not because it's convenient. Man, we'll walk with him all the time, okay? Any questions? Comments? Okay, who was Jacob and Esau's father? Isaac. Which one was older? Marie, which one was older, Jacob and Esau? Huh? Esau. This guy's 50-50 chance getting right. Which one of them did God say, I love him? Jacob and Esau. Which one did God say, I love him? Jacob. Which one did God say, I hated him? Esau. Because of his choices. He didn't care anything about what God said, ever. Okay? He loved his father, Isaac. And when Jacob stole the blessing, that's another part of the story. When Jacob went in and stole his blessing, put hair on the back of his hand, on the back of his neck, and wore his brother's clothes. And so Esau loved his father, Isaac, but he didn't really care about God. And there's a lot of people that are like that. If you had two of them, if you lived here and Jacob lived on one side, Esau lived on the other, you probably wouldn't feel like you could ever trust Jacob. Okay? And Esau may be a better guy to live next door to, because it might be more honest. Okay? Because he was a trickster, deceiver. But Esau didn't care anything about what God said. They don't care about it. Well, it gets a birthright. If I die, I'm going to go die. You miss one meal. Okay. All right. Let's pray with this. Thank you, Lord, for loving us. I pray that you'll help us to understand your truth and your word. That you pour out your blessings on us. Sometimes we don't even know it. And a lot of times you light the path for us. If we're walking that path, the blessings come. And we may not call them the blessings, as we talked earlier, about those who are sick and those who aren't sick. And we may not see it as a blessing. But we don't want to be impoverished and for you to wipe away everything we have because we're disobedient like Esau was. Because we don't care about what you say. Because we don't care about what you do. I pray that you work in the hearts of our family that's here tonight and those who are listening from home and our extended family, our church family and our neighbors and those we come in contact with. Help us be the witness for Christ. And just like part of the birthright, carrying the seed of Christ, to take Christ to others. Help us be the witness for Christ we ought to be. We want to honor you and love you and show you that we love you by being obedient. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen. Thanks for coming out tonight.